Hello, everybody. My name is Peter, and I will be moderating tonight's telephone town hall with Congresswoman Dexter. Now, this is really exciting. This is actually Congresswoman Dexter's 40th town hall or community conversation since taking office last year. So thank you all for taking the time to join us tonight. Now, to ask a question live, you can press *3, and a member of our team will get your name and add you to the queue. When you're live with the Congresswoman, please keep your question to a minute or less so we can be sure to hear from as many Oregonians as possible. Now, again, to ask a question live, press *3. To subscribe to the Congresswoman's newsletter, you can press *6, and a member of our team will collect your email. You can also subscribe directly from her website, dexter.house.gov. Now, subscribing to her newsletter is the best way to stay up to date on events like these and hear about the work she's doing in Congress. Now, again, to ask a question live with the Congresswoman tonight, press *3. Press *6 to subscribe to the Congresswoman's newsletter. And before we get underway, I want to introduce a member of Congresswoman Dexter's casework team, Jess. Our caseworkers are bilingual, and we offer translated materials if you're having trouble with a federal agency, including immigration-related matters, or during this partial government shutdown. Our office is here to help.
Si desea un resumen de esta reunión, hacer una pregunta o necesita ayuda con una agencia federal, por favor, llámenos al 503-231-2300 o en línea en dexter.house.gov. Gracias por estar aquí esta noche y esperamos responder a sus preguntas.
Thank you so much, Jeff. Now I am beyond excited to introduce Congresswoman Dexter.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Jeff. Good evening. I am Congresswoman Maxine Dexter, a mom, a physician, and very proud representative of Oregon's 3rd Congressional District. Again, this is my 40th town hall or community conversation since starting office, so just really thrilled. Whether this is your first town hall or your 10th, I'm grateful you're here. I cannot be your voice in Congress without hearing directly from you. And right now, I want to be honest with you. We are at an important juncture. The White House has started a war in the Middle East with no objective or justification. The result is deadly. We've already lost 13 U.S. service members, and over 1,000 civilians in Iran have been killed. Instability is running through the region. There is no clear off-ramp. I'm in Congress working to reassert that the American people have the power to decide if their country goes to war, not the president. When we send troops into combat, that decision must reflect the will of the people, exercised through their elected representatives. And to do that, I need to hear from you to make sure I'm representing your interests the best way I can. That's the crux of our democracy, that it is accountable to the people. And that fight for accountability is not just happening overseas. It is happening right here at home, where we are pushing for accountability at ICE, demanding the release of the Epstein files, and fighting to ensure our elections remain accountable to the people. All of these fights come down to something simple: whether our government answers to the people, whether the people have a say in matters of war and peace, whether the people can hold their government accountable when it breaks the law, and whether every eligible American can make their voice heard in free and fair elections. One of the most powerful things we can do right now is to continue to show up and stay in the fight. And that's why I'm really excited you're here tonight. We will continue to talk through what is on your mind and the progress we've made and what is still to come. So press *3 to ask a question, and please subscribe to my newsletter by pressing *6.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Now, for our first question, we will go to Heather, who has asked a question online, and she asks, what are community project funding for CPS?
CPS are community project funds, and every congressional member has the opportunity to lift up projects in their district that are worthy of federal dollars. And there are many projects that are worthy, many more than we get to fund. And these always have to fall into certain criteria and sort of restrictions to make sure that they're in line with what the majority usually is put on the docket. So last year, around this time, we submitted 15, was it 15? It was 15 projects, I think, and we had $14 million and all 15 projects funded. It's not all got full funding, but every single project came from the community, had folks who were asserting why they were important, had support, met the criteria, and we ranked those 15 and all were funded. So whether it was water quality or youth violence prevention in Gresham, or housing, or street improvements in Portland and Hood River areas, we have money coming into our community as a result of these projects. So right now we're ranking the projects for next year. We can rank 20, and we hope that we'll have similar luck, although I'm not going to bet on getting every project. That's pretty extraordinary.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And as a reminder, press *3 to ask a question live. And our first question is from Paul from North Portland. And Paul, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Oh, well, thank you, Congresswoman. This Hegseth guy, he is like, he's beyond the Peter principle. He's way beyond his level of incompetence to, I'm sorry, I'm at a loss for words. It's just so astounding. What can be done to impeach him? And what can be done to pull? Can we cut off any funding? We're spending, what, $1 billion a day just about these days on the floor?
Yep. No, Paul, thank you so much for asking, and I share your outrage. I actually spoke to this at a press conference today. Pete Hegseth is incompetent. He does not care about the dignity and humanity of people. He has actually suggested that we do not follow standard conduct, international law of war. There is, there's Signal Gate, of course, when he came out of the gate. This man is not a serious servant to the people. He is a servant to his ego and that of Donald Trump. We, without question, have grounds that we could elevate for impeachment. We absolutely are continuing to elevate our frustration with him and asking for or demanding his firing or resignation. And, I have no doubt that we will continue to elevate this. I called for his resignation at the very beginning of this administration when he was sending highly secure, confidential information about troop locations through Signal, which is a commercial platform any of us can download. So from the very beginning, Pete Hegseth has been incompetent. I couldn't agree with you more. What we can do, to your point, to end this war is not fund it. And Donald Trump is looking for a supplemental package of appropriations or funding for this war. They want to increase our Department of Defense budget next year by 50%. The way Congress has ended wars in history is by using their power of the purse and stopping it. And we are going to do everything we can to make sure that at least I am going to do everything I can to make sure that is our approach in this day on this war, that people don't understand why we're there, and we certainly need to get out of it.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Now, up next, we will go to Daniel from Portland. And Daniel, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Hello. I was wondering. Hi. I was wondering. I'm 73 years old, and I'm not really sure that I know that I can put my hand on my birth certificate. And I've been voting in every election. Am I in danger of being disenfranchised because I haven't gotten my real ID yet?
It's an operational question to a certain degree, Daniel, because, we have said that or what they are postulating, number one, tens of millions of Americans are going to be disenfranchised with this law. The question is whether your birth certificate name matches that of your legal identification now. And for you, that may or may not be the case. And the question that is in my mind is, if you don't have your birth certificate to prove it, what's going to happen? And I think we are going to have people have a birth certificate and their identification to get what they're calling a voter ID. I'm not sure. I need to dig into the elements of that because that is a really important question. But more broadly, what this bill would do if the Senate passes it, and let's be clear, the Senate is debating this, and this could go on for as much as 2 weeks this right now. What the Save America Act would do is require that your birth certificate name and your current identification name are the same. And for women like me who changed their name when they got pregnant or when they got married, or people whose identities or names have changed for other reasons, they will be disenfranchised unless they have a passport that has their current legal name. This is a poll tax. It's hundreds of dollars to get a passport. It is absolutely a hurdle, especially with the gutting of our federal agencies, that is hard to come by, let alone, if you don't have the time or you don't have the money, you will be disenfranchised. And so we absolutely are fighting this bill with everything we have. It is not a problem. There are no there is insignificant, I won't say no, but there is insignificant non-citizen voting issues, at least in Oregon, and it is a federal offense to be a non-citizen voting. So this is a problem that they're trying to solve without being a problem. So I'll just make it very clear. The Save America Act is not making our voting or our elections more secure or safe. It is a hurdle that is intended to disenfranchise people and make it harder for tens of millions of Americans to vote.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And just a reminder, to ask the question live with the Congresswoman, you can press *3. And now we will go to Sherry from Sandy. And Sherry, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Oh, hello. Thank you for taking my call.
Of course. Hi. I think you're cutting out. Cherie, do you have a question that you want to ask?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Right now.
Yeah, you can hear me? Okay. Good.
Yes.
I do have a question about healthcare.
Great.
I'm in that.
Please go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. I have a question about the expense of it. It tripled for me. It was when I was under my employer. I'm 59. I retired, and now I don't have employer insurance, but I'm not old enough for Social Security. And so I've got 5-6 years that I've got to pay for health insurance privately, and I don't qualify for the ACA. And my health care prices went from $200 a month to $1,300 a month. And I'm just curious as to how we're expected to afford health care with those kind of increases. My pension I have a pension. I was a teacher for 30 years, and my pension just isn't enough. It's too much to qualify for free health care, but it's not enough to pay for the health care. So I'm in this horrible bind. Is there anything that we can do collectively to help people get affordable health care? I feel like that's in a crisis situation right now.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more that it is a crisis. And Cherie, you have articulated the exact challenge that is happening for approximately, we think, 15 to 20 million Americans right now. And so these are folks who, again, as you said, make too much to qualify for Medicaid, aren't old enough for Medicare, don't have post-retirement or employment medical benefits, and the ACA plans that they have available or other commercial plans are simply too expensive. And those that might be more affordable tend to be high deductible plans that require tremendous out-of-pocket costs, or the coverage is just so minimal that they're not effective. So this is 100% a crisis that we've been deeply concerned about. It is the reason that the Republicans let the government shut down, because we refused to move forward the budget bill without addressing the ending of the ACA enhanced premium tax credits, which would have made this more affordable, was making it more affordable for millions of Americans. We were able to pass that with a discharge petition, but it has not passed out of the Senate, so that is not yet signed into law. We can push for that. Your writing us, making sure we hear your stories, helps us have fodder to push the Senate in that regard. The next thing we need to do is make sure that we have a plan that will address this. This is a crisis beyond anything I think our country's seen in healthcare. There are rural health clinics, there are independent practices, there are hospitals that are closing. The state legislature just had to pass a bill to help save Coos Bay Hospital this recent legislative session. So we are racing towards a cliff that people are starting to fall off, and the country needs a plan. And our team is deeply engaged in writing a plan and coming up with a plan, but we need emergency, stop the bleeding, stop this immediately, and then we need transformative health care that is affordable, is the same benefits for every person in this country, and actually increases the number of clinicians who are taking care of people and supports them to be able to do that. That is a longer-term plan, certainly, but we have to address this. It is going to impact your bottom line, $200 to $1,300. Like, nobody can afford that. And certainly, if you have a high deductible plan, even if you can afford the premium, you probably can't afford the ongoing health care unless you happen to be a wealthy American. And even when you're wealthy, health care is really expensive right now. So thank you for the question. I'm sorry, I can tell that I sound passionate right now, but this is why, one of the many reasons that I wanted to come to Congress. This is what I am absolutely nerding out over as a clinician and a healthcare leader formally. And I am here to make sure that you all are heard and we get this done.
That's a doctor's prescription right there. Thank you, Congresswoman. Up next, we have Eric from Southeast Portland. And Eric, you are live with Congresswoman.
Hi, Dr. Representative Dexter. I wanted to just say thank you so much for holding these types of events. This is absolutely fantastic. I've never seen this in our district before, and I just thank you from the bottom of my heart for this opportunity and all the ones that you've held in the past. My question is, what are we doing in Congress to continue to try to hold folks involved in the Epstein files accountable, and and what can we do as the public to help encourage that?
Thank you so much, Eric. One, for your kind words, and I'm so glad that you're on the phone with us, and for the over 11,000 people who are here with us tonight. Thank you for showing up. It really is how I can lead, and it is because of people outraged by things like the Epstein files not being released. The Department of Justice is in violation of the Epstein File Transparency Act, which we passed over a month and a half ago now. They still have not released the files. There are millions of documents that aren't released, and there are many. I've gone to the unredacted files. As a member of Congress, we are allowed to go into the Department of Justice and read the quote-unquote unredacted files that are still very much redacted. There's no transparency here. It is not possible to hold perpetrators of sexual violence, child trafficking, human trafficking accountable when the information, the actual evidence is being withheld. And we know that Donald Trump is in those files. We know that Pam Bondi sat in front of our Oversight and Investigations Committee and said that he was not implicated at all. I've read the unredacted files. I know that that is false. We have every reason to push as hard as we can, because I frankly believe that this is a very deeply malignant issue, that the Epstein class, those powerful men, billionaires mostly, who are protecting each other, still have a lot to lose, and they are absolutely putting pressure on the government not to release them, and that could include our president. So these folks need to not just have this transparently held, but be prosecuted and convicted, and we need to have justice for the Epstein survivors. I have spent 18 hours at the Department of Justice so far reading those files. I requested to go back again this week. We are still working through that. It is part of the challenge, is that I can't just go when I want. It's, hours, and they can deny me access. It is a travesty. You should be outraged, and we want to hear from you. It helps me to demand more access, to demand more accountability, to hold Pam Bondi accountable when I hear from you. So please do share your frustration, even if you know I'm spending hours. It helps me. And then the last thing is we are filing articles of impeachment for Pam Bondi. She is in violation of the law. There are many things that she has done, but one clearly is her failure to disclose the Epstein files, and she has mismanaged that to such a degree that we are filing articles of impeachment against her.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Now, as a reminder, if for folks that want to ask a question live, you can dial *3. And up next, we will head to River from Portland. And River, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Hi, Maxine Dexter. It's so great to get a chance to speak with you again. My question is regarding AI data centers. We have already seen the federal government use AI in this war, seemingly to erroneously bomb the school in Iran, if my knowledge is correct. I got it from TikTok, so don't quote me. But also this proliferation of AI data centers in our neighborhoods, when what it is turning out is harmful. We are seeing it used on social media to create inappropriate, non-consensual images. There's issues with copyright exploitation, as well as inaccuracies and the environmental impacts. What do you hope to be able to do regarding these concerns that range from, safety, privacy, to national security when it comes to AI?
Yeah, thank you so much, River. Very well said on all fronts. And indeed, we do have reason to believe that the protections against erroneously targeting targets in actions of war, that may have been related to an AI target. We aren't clear yet. It may be that the safety protocols were removed and they were using old data as well. So we are still digging into that, and that is absolutely something that investigations and oversight is being exerted and demanded. On the more broad front that is impacting each and every one of us every day, you're right. And also HIPAA violations, medical information that people are uploading into AI chatbots to have them help them, tell them what they think they actually have going on. Once that's out there, your medical information is no longer protected. So this is a public service announcement to please not upload your medical information to AI, because you lose complete control of it. And future employers, insurers, others could potentially use your data against you. So please do not do that. And our children are being impacted. There are restrictions that, in fact, seem to be considered for being lifted with mental health and AI chatbots that can misguide our family members and our loved ones when they are in moments of crisis. So we do need AI regulation. And there's bipartisan agreement on this. This is not something that just Democrats or just Republicans are talking about. I think the challenge is there's enormous investment, lobby interest, corporate interest in keeping us from taking action. And it's complicated because we don't know where this is going. It's hard to regulate something as quickly as AI is evolving. And in fact, one of the experts here in Congress suggested that I heard that we may have to have AI help us regulate AI because we congressional members and experts can't keep up with things as quickly as it will evolve. I've also heard folks who have helped develop AI that it is out of the box, that it's like a nuclear weapon, that once it's out there, you can no longer control it, and now we have to contain it. And so I'll step back from the doomsaying now and also offer that AI does have real potential for good, and we see it being used for that, whether in medical clinics or offices, and when you call your customer service and entity that you're trying to reach. We do need to address this in a holistic and comprehensive way that centers people, centers their privacy, and centers also the evolution of our workforce, who may lose their positions and their ability to support themselves and their families if AI replaces them. There has to be a bridge, job training and other opportunities for people. We can't just let our community members be fired to make room for AI without other options being put forth. So this is something that Congress sees, certainly my Democratic caucus understands is an imminent, important issue, and it's so complicated, and there's so much public or corporate interest that I'm also challenged with this. So those of you out there who care deeply about this, those of you who have, personal experience or understanding, again, it is helpful to hear from you because we can use your perspective as well as your stories to help illuminate the challenges that everyone's facing in our communities right now. The last thing, data centers. We are trying to hold data center development accountable, at least in a transparent way, for how much electricity and water they are using. That is an amendment for their water usage that I was able to get into a bill earlier this year. And my opinion is that ratepayers, the people paying for electricity, should not be subsidizing the data centers' use of water and electricity. So we need to make sure that they have conditions under which, if they decide to develop, that there's community investment and protection. I think I've gone on enough about that, Peter.
Thank you, Congresswoman. And we are going to head into our first poll of the evening. Now, since mid-February, Democrats in Congress have held the line on funding the Department of Homeland Security until accountability is guaranteed at ICE and CBP. Now, as negotiations continue, many other DHS programs like TSA, FEMA, and the Coast Guard play a critical role in keeping our communities safe and responding to disasters. Now, our question is, do you support Democrats and Republicans funding these non-immigration functions while we continue negotiating immigration reforms? Dial 1 for yes, dial 2 for no, and dial 3 for not sure. Again, do you support Democrats and Republicans funding these non-immigration functions of DHS while we continue negotiating immigration reforms? That's dial 1 for yes, dial 2 for no, and dial 3 for not sure. And I'll pass it over to my colleague, Jeff.
Si desea un resumen de esta reunión, hacer una pregunta o necesita ayuda con una agencia federal, por favor, llámenos al 503-231-2300 o en línea en dexter.house.gov. Gracias por estar aquí esta noche y esperamos responder a sus preguntas.
Great. And so thank you so much for so quickly responding. This is a very relevant issue right now. The House Democrats, Leader Jeffries just submitted a discharge petition today to suggest that we fund all the other forms of DHS government, the Coast Guard, FEMA, exactly what Peter was just saying, while we negotiate to make sure that ICE is held accountable, that the unlawful arrests are stopped and the masks come off. These are things that we are going to fight for, and I'm so grateful for your support. 68% of you have said, 66% have said, yes, you support us funding those other important TSA functions of government while we negotiate on holding ICE and CBP accountable to the law and to humanity. No, 17% did not support that, and 17% said they were not sure. So this is, less clear-cut than some, folks would like to say, but it is absolutely my priority to center the rule of law and treating people with humanity. And so we need to get ICE and DHS reined in, and we also should fund the other functions in my mind. And I'm so grateful that that's in alignment with your support tonight.
Fantastic. Now back to our questions, and do not forget, folks, you can dial *3 to ask a question live with the Congresswoman, and *6 if you would like to subscribe to her newsletter. Now we will head to David from Portland, and David, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Yes, hello. I may have lost track of this issue, but I'm wondering if there has been a legal change such that the Oregon National Guard can be federalized now, or other troops be federalized such that protests will be cracked down on in a more rigorous way. We have the No Kings coming up next Sunday, and beyond that, I'm just wondering, increased federalization, is that going to happen? Thank you.
Such a good question. Yes, thank you, David. And I really appreciate the way you tied that to the No Kings protest, because it is a question that a lot of people are going to have on their mind. So this is an area where the courts have held the rule of law. They denied Donald Trump's order to federalize National Guard troops in Portland. They never were fully deployed. There were Oregon National Guard and some from outside physically in Portland for a while, but they were never deployed past the federal ICE facility processing center. They have been sent back home to their families. These were mostly Oregon National Guard folks, people who are our neighbors, who are being put in very tough situations. They have not been federalized. The judge has, Judge Immergut was very clear in her ruling. That's been very much litigated, and at this point we are in absolute clarity that the Oregon National Guard will not be federalized and troops will not be federalized in Portland. So if you choose to be at a protest, that is, a choice that you make, knowing the risks for yourself and your community members, but please do know that the National Guard will not be there.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Now we will head to Jeff from Portland. Jeff, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for these virtual town halls. These are absolutely fantastic. My name is Jeff Hammerland. I'm a retired professor of climate and clean energy policy at Portland State University. Many years ago, when the Democrats had control of the Senate, I had the honor of working for the Senate Energy Committee on clean energy legislation. I'm concerned, I'm going to be voting when we have that poll about the top priorities. I'm certainly going to talk about protecting democracy as number one, but I don't want to lose sight of climate and clean energy policy in this process. I know the House has passed some pretty poor bills to support fossil fuels and to make it even harder for clean energy being transmitted to load centers. And I'm hoping that you have some ideas on how we can address this issue in the near term, but also in the longer term as well.
Yes, thank you, Jeff and Professor, so much for your question, for your advocacy, for your service in this regard, publicly as well as an educator. Couldn't agree more. And in fact, I went to an event this evening with many of the advocates who are trying to protect our public lands, and it is so important that we are in this together, whether it's the Sierra Club or the League of Conservation Voter, like it's all the people in the room are still very much, and across this country are very much in support of us taking bold action. And as a mother, as a physician, especially a pulmonary physician who has treated people who have been impacted, whether by heat events or smoke and fume inhalation, I can't tell you enough how much of a commitment this is. I've introduced bold legislation to treat the climate crisis like the public health emergency it is, as the top Democrat on the House Natural Resources Subcommittee on Oversight and Investigations. I am fighting Trump's attempt to sell off public lands, to deep sea mine, to run wires through our marine reserves, and to sell off, our lands literally to the lowest bidder. We are fighting those issues in oversight and investigations right now, and I am planning to do everything I can to hold this president accountable if we become, in the majority. Respiratory protection for wildland firefighters and trying to manage our forests in a responsible way is something that my team is actively working towards right now. We also filed legislation that directed the Health and Human Services Secretary to declare a public health emergency in connection with climate change. This would unlock federal resources. Shielding Students from Wildfire Smoke Act is another one that we have put in, which would strengthen national understanding and response strategies to protect children's health during wildfire and smoke events. There are many things that we are doing, and it is absolutely one of my top priorities. We can focus on our democracy and make sure we're protecting our elections and do the work that the people sent me here to do. I came here to work on healthcare, environment, and economic opportunity, among many other things, and we have not lost focus on that. So thank you, Jeff, for continuing to elevate it. And again, write me if this is an issue you care about, because it really helps make sure that we keep it front and center.
Thank you so much, Jeff, and go Vikes, and thank you, Congresswoman. Up next, we have Jamie from Portland, and Jamie, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Hi there. I'm really happy to be in a wonderful echo chamber of like-minded individuals, but I would love to know more about what we can all do to reach out to the folks that aren't on this call and aren't on calls like this, and how we can convince the folks on the other side of the aisle to change their mind, because this is wrong.
Yeah, and thank you, Jamie. And it is an echo chamber. There are people who disagree with us, and I shouldn't say us as us versus them, because that is part of the problem. All of us want to live in safe communities and have people treated with dignity and by the rule of law. We need health care. We want our environment, at least our lands to be protected, and nobody wants to breathe dirty air or to have extreme weather events. So there is absolutely hope, and we need to build more, I think, relationships with people who may not agree with us and feel comfortable having hard conversations. And I will use my dad as an example. He is somebody who disagrees with me on just about everything politically, but I was raised to have respectful conversations, and you can disagree without being disagreeable. And that is something that, honestly, I saw in my Veterans Affairs Committee today, where we very much disagreed on certain things, but we were able to have real dialogue. And this is with Republicans and Democrats and leaders. It's not to say that I have high hopes that everything's going to change tomorrow, but I do see the humanity and the care for communities, whether it's here in the halls of Congress or at home when, people feel very strongly that I'm on the wrong side of an issue they care deeply about. So what can you do? Number one, reach out to friends and family who may think differently. Even better if they live in a community where they have Republican relationships and representation, because their voice will impact those representatives. It doesn't help a ton, though it may make a difference in mass or in volume for people to reach out to certain offices who do something egregious that you're frustrated about. But I'll just share with you, that is not the best use of your time. I think building those conversations and relationships with people who live elsewhere in the country who may have a vote that could make a difference is really helpful. Supporting candidates, or causes or groups that are in alignment with your values, whether you agree with what I say or not. You do have agency if you have time to volunteer or money to donate. Those things do make a difference. And lastly, protecting everyone's right to vote. Nobody's voice is going to be heard if we don't make sure that we have free and fair elections. And ultimately, that is the most important thing. The will of the people should be what drives this, not the special interest groups that are buying all the ads or other things. So I'm going to fight for campaign finance reform and getting, corporations out of and billionaires out of, buying ads. And you can help by making sure that you stand up for our democracy and free and fair elections, because ultimately the polls will tell the tale of where people's values are. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And up next, we have Michael from Southeast Portland. Michael, you are live with the Congresswoman. Michael? I'm not sure.
You know what?
We can't hear you.
I pressed the mute
button.
button.
There you are.
Can you hear me now?
I was just about to say we can't hear you if you're talking. That's okay. Go ahead.
No, sorry. Well, I appreciate you taking my question, especially because I attended the last town hall and you took my question then. And so this is a great opportunity for me because I actually have a follow-up. I asked you a question last time about expanding the Congress to better represent the populace rather than the landmass of people. And I was really looking to understand what your feeling about that was, or what your opinion about that was. And your answer was concise and was helpful. It was about, the technical difficulty of that, the space in Washington that would need to be made, and also just the awareness of that. And I realized that it's kind of a wonky question. It's a little bit long-winded or longer term. But I'm looking at things like the Heritage Foundation that's been operating since the 80s. But I just think Democrats need to be thinking more long-term. And it is glaring to me that we look at these elections in terms of an electoral map and issues rather than in terms of the mass population of this country. And something needs to change there. So you talked about Congress people not wanting to give up power. And I just wonder what your take on that is as a congressperson.
Yeah. No, thank you so much, Michael. And it is a little bit wonky, and people aren't aware that the founding fathers actually did intend us to have a much smaller number of constituents in our district. Now, the country was much smaller then, so I think that is part of the argument that we've grown so much, grown so fast, and it's hard to have that many representatives actually be functional. If anybody's ever tried to run a meeting with 9 versus 25 people that you have to come to a discussion, it's hard. But that doesn't mean that it's impossible. And the House of Representatives is Article 1 of the Constitution. It is intended to be the closest to the people. And I've said this many times, I love the fact that I can drive across my district in under, 2.5 hours and be able to see people in every part of my district. It makes me more able to show up. And showing up and communicating with people and understanding their ideas and their impressions and what they want you to do is absolutely core. So you in every way are very on top of things, and also I think in alignment with what our founding fathers foresaw, is that we needed to have small jurisdictions, small numbers of people as members of the House of Representatives, and that is something that we just physically haven't done yet. They have one for every 30,000 people as sort of the representation in Article 1 of the Constitution. So that would lead to enormous increase in Congress if we were actually to say no representative had more than 30,000 people, because I actually represent 740,000 people roughly right now. So that is a dramatic difference. And so, but if that's what we should do, I think the people need to also raise their voices. So write me, make sure that we hear it. And we are going to have a governance recalibration in this country. The executive branch is out of alignment. They have too much power. Congress has ceded its power. Congress needs to take that back, and a robust discussion about that needs to happen, whether representation needs to adjust. And finally, the Supreme Court is also politicized in my mind. I don't think it's legitimate in a lot of ways, in the way it's worried about politics over the people and some of the ways that they're ruling, and whether we expand the court or have ethics conditions on them is also something that we need to be considering as a country. And this is not a Republican or a Democrat thing. This is an American values, constitutional sort of grounding thing. So thank you, Michael, for following up. Thank you for continuing to advocate. You're 2 town halls in, and now more people know about it. So I appreciate it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Now we'll head to Ryan from Portland. And Ryan, you are live as a Congresswoman.
Hi. What I wanted to ask about is in relation to free and fair elections, and how you might be organizing with local law enforcement to ensure that there's not going to be voter intimidation at the polls, how potentially other Congress people are doing the same, and what action we're planning on taking if and probably when there is not a free and fair election.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. And you are articulating a question that I hear at every town hall, almost every conversation that I have. It is absolutely the most important question as we are facing an authoritarian. This election has deep, deep implications. And so, number one, our attorneys general, I just had a briefing with the Democratic attorneys general across this country. They are anticipating every way possible that they can file cases, that they can ask for holds on different actions. They are fighting the attempts for this administration to get voter rolls and other information. We certainly are fighting the Save America Act, which is in no question an attempt to suppress the vote. And then to your point about ICE, or you didn't say it, we are fighting to not have ICE at sensitive locations, including hospitals and schools and polling locations. For exactly that reason, we want to protect your voter data so that entities who don't have American values centered in their attempt to intimidate would potentially be able to send police and other agents into sensitive communities where that presence may keep them from voting, and that clearly could lead to unfair outcomes. Finally, I want to just be really clear. In Oregon, our polls are our living rooms, are our, friends' gathering rooms, are our workplaces. We can vote where we want with a very secure ballot. We have some of the most accessible and secure polls or voting systems in the country, and I strongly believe that that should be expanded to every state in this nation. That would cut so much of what could go wrong with this election. So articulating your desire for that, strongly worded letters to me also work, and then making sure that when, as you said, something happens, that we have responses. And the Democratic caucus is absolutely, we have leaders who this is all they are thinking about, and they are doing preventative as well as anticipatory actions that we can take here in Congress as well as in our district. So this is, I'm sure that there is going to be something we don't think about, but there are some of the smartest people across our nation, our attorneys, our legislators, our staff, and others who are anticipating. And if you have ideas on what we can do, that's important. The last thing I'll say is Oregon can vote early. You get your ballot with plenty of time to vote. I would encourage people, if you have the time and the interest, to vote. Drop your ballot off at a ballot box or at the state voting offices or county offices, and then go be a volunteer to stand and protect polling stations in other states where it is a much more sensitive place. I do think that people showing up and showing solidarity in the way they have in Minneapolis around schools and other places can be an offset. So that is, obviously something that would only be if it is a striking and important thing to you, but that is something I'm hearing a lot of folks talking about.
Great. Thank you so much, Congresswoman. And we have time for one last question. So we will head to Naya from Southeast Portland. Naya, you are live with the Congresswoman.
Hi, thank you so much. This might be a biggie. I'm sorry to make it your last question. Thank you for having me and having all of us on these calls. I really value this time, Congresswoman. It's my pleasure and honor here. I'm wondering if there's anything that we can do to address the healthcare monopoly, the vertically integrated healthcare market, where we have a small group of individuals who control every facet, every piece of a patient's journey, from requesting care to getting a prescription to getting actual health care. And these people own every step of the journey, and they have a monopoly on it. So they can not only deny claims. I mean, I've been there myself, but I just watched a quick video about a real physician who was also a member of Congress who had to submit his claim for a medication that he needs to stay alive 8 times. And it was denied till finally they accepted it. He kept objecting and rejecting their findings and finally got his medication. But his point was, what does a normal person go through? I'm a member of Congress and I'm a doctor. So I want to know what we can do to address the issue of companies like CVS Health, CVS Caremark, United Health Group. These companies, Cigna, Elevance Health, Humana, they own.
Naya, I'm so sorry. I think somehow we got disconnected there, but really love the question. I couldn't be more passionate. I know I sound like I'm passionate about everything tonight, but I'm so fired up in wanting to protect you, your healthcare, people's access to healthcare. You have articulated very clearly an issue that is absolutely a priority for us to break up the monopolies, the conglomerates who are literally owning every step of your healthcare journey, whether it's the pharmacy you go to, the insurance company that covers you, and sometimes the doctors who take care of you, as well as the hospital that you would go to in an emergency. These are extraordinarily reckless and hurtful things that allows a shell game to happen where they can find ways to make money by, siphoning things to themselves or targeting their pharmaceuticals that they want you to have. So it is a travesty. It has to stop. We could pass laws against it. We can also incentivize the outcomes that we want. And this is literally what my team just had a conversation with leaders across the country about yesterday. We are talking about transformative healthcare reform. And one thing that absolutely is certain is we have to break up the conglomerates, the vertical integration, and we can do that also with tax laws. You can disincentivize things with carrots and sticks. So we can reward companies that aren't vertically integrated or support independent physician practices or nurse practitioners or community health workers. We can break up private equity invested groups that are trying to say that they're physician groups. We can break up United, with a hammer, or we can incentivize them where they're only doing what they can to make money for their shareholders. And if there's not money to be made there anymore, they will stop investing in healthcare. So we need to start being smart about this system that we are all struggling to give or receive care in. And Congress has all the power. And I'm so sad to say this, but we have the system that we have allowed or incentivized. We need to change the incentives, and we have to center the American people, who each and every person deserves to have access to health care that they can afford from somebody they know.
Thank you so much, Congresswoman. Now, before we wrap up, we have one final poll question. As many of you know, at every town hall, Congresswoman Dexter asks, what is your number one issue that you would like her to focus on in Washington, D.C.? We know, as we've heard tonight, that there is a lot going on. If you have to pick one issue, what is the issue that matters most to you? You can respond right now using the keypad on your phone. Press 1 for healthcare, 2 for the economy, 3 for immigration, 4 for protecting democracy, 5 for housing, and 6 for something else. Again, if you have to choose just one, what is the issue that matters most to you? Press the number that best fits your priority. That's 1 for healthcare, 2 for the economy, 3 for immigration, 4 for protecting democracy, 5 for housing, and 6 for something else. And while we wait for responses to come in, a quick reminder, if you need help with a federal agency, please call our office at 503-231-2300. Our caseworkers are bilingual and fantastic, and we can provide translated materials to make sure you get the assistance you need. And I will now pass this on to Congresswoman Dexter.
Thank you so much, Peter. At every single town hall, I indeed ask this question, and it may feel repetitive, but it matters that I hear directly from you about your top concern. And so we do use this information. We track it. So thank you for putting up with having the same question asked every time. Data points matter, and how these change over time is reflective of the stresses you are under. And once again, our top issue is democracy, and we're at 84% of people responding tonight. Again, we've had almost 12,000 people on tonight. 84% say democracy, if they had to choose one, is their top concern. Healthcare is number 2 at 5%, so extraordinary drop off there. Other is 4%. The economy, 3%, immigration, 2%, housing, 2%. And if you're like me, if we had just talked about immigration or we had just talked about housing, I would have been inclined to have been really fired up and upset about that. But democracy is persistent. It is the foundational part of our country that has made us great, that has allowed us to be the land of opportunity. We have immigrants who have made us what we have become, and I think people are very concerned about the rule of law no longer being the rule here in the United States. So we will do everything here in this office to continue protecting your democracy, our democracy. Your outreach gives me the power to vote in your interest and to push my colleagues and to support policies that actually help you, not hurt you, whether it's healthcare, the environment, or our democracy. And I just want to take a moment to recognize that it is because of your pressure that we have made real progress. Public opinion is at an all-time low for Donald Trump and his administration. Kristi Noem was fired. You helped that happen. ICE has ended its surge in Minneapolis. The National Guard was never deployed in Portland. Democrats are fighting in the courts. They're winning. A federal judge just blocked efforts recently to prevent congressional oversight of ICE detention facilities, so all members of Congress can show up unannounced to any facility. Earlier this year, the Supreme Court also ruled against Trump's tariffs. This is a victory for working people who have had money stolen from them. It's been a tax that they have been paying, and Donald Trump is going to have to get that money back to people. These wins matter. They are worth recognizing, celebrating, and making sure that we understand the empowerment that we have. Your voice still matters in this country, and it must continue to matter. We have a long road ahead, and we will continue to keep up the pressure and fight for the country where our future, where healthcare is affordable and accessible, where families are not forced to choose between rent and prescriptions, a future where immigrants are welcomed and treated with dignity, not met with violence and intimidation, and a future where democracy truly belongs to the people, not corporations, not extremists, and not an authoritarian strongman. Thank you for staying engaged, for asking hard questions, for refusing to look away when things get difficult. It is truly an honor to serve Oregon's 3rd Congressional District, and I carry your voices with me every single day. You are what gives me strength. If you haven't already, please go to dexter.house.gov now to sign up for our newsletter. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, Threads, X, Blue Sky, and YouTube. I know there's many options there, and let's just stay connected. Let's keep showing up for each other. We take care of us. We've got to keep fighting for dignity, for democracy, and for one another. Take care of yourselves. Please keep reaching out. I hope to see you at a community event near you soon. Have a great night and stay safe.